Okay, we should be ready to roll. All right, one sec here. Okay, hello everybody. Just get a drink from my magic mug so we can get rolling. How's everyone doing out there? If you can hear me, if you can see me, let me know. You should be also seeing in your YouTube view on your screen, you should be seeing Peter Lavelle and Alexander Mercouris. All right, what do you guys say? Get rolling?
Yeah, but where do we begin?
Okay, well, let's see where people are checking in from so we can get some more people onto the live stream. Gives people about a minute or two, and then we'll get rolling. Hello from Denmark, Croatia, Nigel from London. Let's see. A shift is equal to a lizard shape shifter. All right. Hello from Iran, Tehran. Hello, how you doing? Hello from Venice, Italy. Byron Bay. Yep, loud and clear. Okay, great. Hello from Denmark, Perth, UK. Hear you in Oz. Hello from Sweden. Man, what is going on in Sweden? Getting all kinds of news of all kinds of gang wars and craziness going on. We have to do a video.
I'm actually thinking, Alex, of visiting Sweden. I have a number of contacts with Finland, where my brother used to live. Mm-hmm. So if I do go to Finland soon, which I might drop over to Sweden.
Drop over, get some video and give us a report what's happening there, Alexander.
Exactly.
From Western Australia, from Panama, Hungary, Valley S from Ohio, Denmark, Oxfordshire, let's see, where else? Peterborough, hey, Andrew. Sheffield, Stockholm, Turkey, Atlanta, Georgia, London, Norway. Hi from the UK. All right, let's get rolling. I have in Moscow, the host of RT's Crosstalk, the one and only Mr. Peter Lavelle. How you doing, Peter?
It's raining. And I'm not concerned about rain, but my three canine companions don't like it. So yes, we had a rainy afternoon, but I'm doing great. My mind is swimming in everything that's going on. There's so much to get your head around. I mean, it's almost impossible to digest things because one thing happens after another. It's an amazing news cycle.
Well, we're going to unpack it real soon. Hello, Lechat from Slovenia. Peter from Thailand, Milwaukee, Columbus, Ohio, Massachusetts, New York. Alexander in London, the Oracle of London. Alexander Mercouris, how are you doing today?
Well, I've got a little cold, I think, on the way, which I'm treating myself to by drinking from black breakfast tea from my magic mug, and that's helping me along. Other than that, I am fine. And can I just say, colds in London at this time of year are not only unavoidable, they're probably a good thing because they're a good excuse for staying indoors. Which
right.
is what you have.
Hello, Carolyn.
So you can watch Brexit TV.
That's right.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We don't lower the tone so early in the program, Peter.
We have a Brexit video coming up actually tomorrow. I wanted to get it up today, but just no time with all the Epstein stuff that broke. Hello, Carolyn from Texas, Olga from Slovakia, Kimberly from Kentucky. Kentucky had some elections yesterday, I believe, very close elections. So Peter, media lies, Democrat leaks, disinformation, Epstein, Ukraine gate, Russia gate. Should we even go into Kavanaugh, Weinstein, Smollett? Well, I think your topic, Peter. Just open it up, however you want to open it up.
I think it was that ABC News anchor woman that she was caught on a hot mic. Hot camera, I guess, by the Veritas Project and got their hands on it. And I think it says everything, is how everything is controlled. Everything's a controlled burn. There's so much censorship. A small number of people sanitize what everyone hears. I mean, with it on this Epstein case, I don't know if she's right or not. I don't know if she had a real story, but her job is a journalist, and she'd been working on it for years. And when she was prepared to make a public announcement of her investigative research, she was clamped down over at ABC News. And we know this for a fact that the NBC News did it as well. But this is just a metaphor for everything that's going on. Look at Adam Schiff and his ridiculous circus that's going on. I mean, even Democrats are beginning to scratch their heads here. I mean, it's obviously so one-sided. And the Republicans are making hay of it in a big, big way. This is a game of chicken where you're playing with a brick wall. Okay, do you think the brick wall is going to take its foot off the accelerator? No, you're just going to go smashing into it. I mean, this is so self-destructive. The confidence in the media and the elites just get worse and worse and worse. And now, you know, in watching the so-called Ukraine gate, again, we've gotten, it's actually even worse than with Russiagate, is that you have the left liberal media just not wanting to talk about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma at all. It was on, I think, The View with Steve Hilton in his program, The Next Revolution, and he went after Marie Harf. And I mean, it got so heated that they cut to Shifty Shift, okay, and his committee, his announcement, which is worthless on its face because we know that. So what we have now is we're in full view, watching the elites, particularly in the media, trying to control a controlled burn of these looming pseudo scandals. There's nothing really there, but they're reporting on it. I really like how Tucker Carlson started his program, his Monday program that I watched this morning, his Tuesday program that I watched this morning. He came out with dramatic news with impeachment of Donald Trump in Ukraine. No, we're not going to go that. We're not going to go there today. We're going to do something else. We're going to actually do news, like how a Mormon family was gunned down and burned on an American highway in Arizona by drug cartels. And everybody's worried about the Kurds, but not Americans on the freeway. Not worried about those cartels, are you? Or you're worried about the Kurds? That's it. Everything in a nutshell.
Alexander.
Well, let's actually go back to what ABC have just said about why they didn't cover the Amy Robach story. They say that they couldn't corroborate, as I understand it, Virginia Guthrie or Virginia Roberts' story. Of course, they could have corroborated it. It's been
have them on set.
There are multiple photographs. There are all the logs of all the airline logs they could have looked at. They could have gone to the island, or I've seen, as I said, a report from people who recently went into the island secretly. And they said that all the people around knew what was going on and were commenting about it. It was all being done in absolute plain sight. And of course, you have all the fact that Epstein actually confessed to child abuse, to sex abuse, and had a conviction. It was incredibly easy to corroborate. To say that ABC News cannot corroborate that story is pathetic. But let's look at the story they did cover relentlessly for 3 years, and for which no corroboration existed. The story that Donald Trump is a Russian asset. We had that rammed down our throats week after week, month after month. We had all the nonsense of Christopher Steele's dossier. That was pumped out at extraordinary length by all of the media, by ABC, by MSNBC, by CNN, by the New York Times, by the Washington Post. That was uncorroborated. Didn't stop them writing or talking about it.
And they got awards for it.
And they got awards for it, exactly. Now, can I just say about this latest impeachment investigation? I mean, there are so many things wrong with it that I don't know where to start. First of all, 2 things to say. Lots of talk about malpractice, inappropriate behavior by Donald Trump. I cannot see it. No one's identified a crime. I don't know what is being investigated here. But secondly, anybody who is concerned about the way things are being done or ought to be done should be extremely worried about the way in which due process has been completely thrown out of the window. We have accusers who are being protected and are being kept anonymous. We have, so that Donald Trump, who's the president of the United States, doesn't even formally know who his accuser is. He's not allowed to ask questions so far of the witnesses. He isn't allowed, apparently, to know the full information about what these witnesses are saying. We have meetings with these witnesses, so-called witnesses, because so far what I've seen of them makes me question whether they are witnesses at all, because I haven't seen that they're actually touching on.
They're leakers. They're leakers.
That is exactly what, Peter, you took the words out of my mouth. These people are leaking, using the impeachment proceedings as a veil and the whistleblower protections in order to leak against the president of the United States, because they have some issues with his foreign policy. That's what it seems to me most of these people are doing. But beyond that, it's the way in which selective leaks are being quite openly now provided by Adam Schiff and his team on the House Intelligence Committee to the media, which are giving very distorted accounts of what some of these so-called witnesses are saying. I mean, I've plowed through the transcripts which have finally been released, and frankly, they did not live up to some of the claims that were being made about them.
What the issue is here, I mean, if we get out of the weeds and look at it in its entirety,
yes,
these leakers, because I'm not going to use the term whistleblower, these people have destroyed the concept of a whistleblower. It's that, just get your head around that. The big picture is here, we've come up with individuals connected with the Democratic Party, connected with the CIA, and other intelligence agencies have leaked essentially that they disagree with the president of the United States and his foreign policy. That's not news, okay? If you go back, and particularly we can go back to the Reagan years, all the way to the present, liberals have run the State Department, okay? Now, we have the double whammy here, because first of all, the State Department traditionally, it does not like working with Republican administrations. That's just the way it's been for decades now. They feel that they're a power upon their own. The added double whammy here are the neocons getting involved. And now you have the establishment Democrats in bed with the neocons, because what we have here, they want to look at, okay, the Democrats want to see malfeasance of one form or another that would go to the bar of impeachment. But the neocons don't want a one step back. Now go back to the campaign, go back to the Republican platform in 2016. What they said was they wanted to have better relations with Russia, and sending offensive military weaponry to Ukraine would not encourage that policy. So they took it out of the plank was taken out, which was a big scandal in itself at the time, I remember. And so you see these deep state officials in charge of Ukraine policy under the Obama administration, and they see equivocation. They see Trump might want to try something different. So what they do is they leak that Trump's indecision is actually treason. And also what they're doing, and a lot of people don't point this out because they don't know anything about Ukraine, is that leaking this conversation was also a message to Zelensky, who is now dependent on Western elites and crooked oligarchs in Ukraine. How would you like to have that in front of you? Well, that's what Zelensky's problem is right now. So what you have the deep staters that do not want, they want a raging Cold War with Russia, because then Ukraine has to spend American tax dollar money to buy American weapons. Oh, isn't that a convenient relationship? Okay. It increases tensions with Russia, which they want, which is good for their business and their line of business, even if you're in the deep state. If you don't have an enemy, what do? Okay, shut down the office? No, it has to go on. The show has to go on. And that's why you have all of these things connected together. And that's why it is so toxic, okay? Because they have an overall agenda. They do not like Trump, but they have their own sub-agendas that are being molded together or marbled together. I love that term, you marble things together. Okay, so you just don't do it with meat, you do it with ideas as well. So that's why this is all coming together. And they need to do it in secret. because it's patently stupid when you look at the big picture. It's obvious what's going on. It's not an impeachable offense to disagree with the president. Why don't you do the right thing and resign? Resign. Go.
Can I just
Alexander.
add to that? I mean, you have Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, who I think is perhaps rather less subtle in the way that he goes about these things than some of these other deep state people that we've been hearing so much about. And by the way, it's interesting that the expression deep state is now being adopted by some of the members of the deep state. They denied for years that such a thing even existed. Now they admit they do. But anyway,
Alec, if I could just jump in here with the deep state, there's a program on YouTube right now that I recorded yesterday on it. It's being really well received. If you want, it's give the lineage of the deep state. I remember it was in December 2017.
Yes.
2016, after Trump had been elected. And the New York Times did it with air quotes, deep state. Now, last few days now, the air quotes are gone. Now it is real, okay? An admission by the deep state that the deep state exists.
Yes.
So think about the lineage over the course of 18 months. It was, you're a conspiracy theorist if you use the term. Yes. Now it is all out in the open. And add to it, you have the liberal media promoting it, protecting it. I'm sorry, keep going.
Yes, what I was going to say is Vindman confirms all the things you've just been saying about disagreement with Donald Trump's policy. Because if you read his opening remarks to this extraordinary hearing that he had, which was all conducted in private, but the opening remarks were widely publicized. Nowhere does he concede that it is the President of the United States who makes foreign policy. He refers instead, and I quote, to the US government policy community's view. There is no such thing as the US government policy community. There is no such thing in the Constitution. And then he comes up with this extraordinary phrase, I became aware of outside influencers who are promoting a false narrative of Ukraine inconsistent with the consensus views of the interagency. What is the interagency? Where in the Constitution of the United States do you find something referred to as the interagency? Presumably, it is the same thing as the US government policy community. But what does that tell you? What he is saying is that the President of the United States, who is empowered by the Constitution of the United States to conduct US foreign policy, must subordinate himself to these mysterious entities, the US government policy community and the interagency. It is quite extraordinary, and it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing that this has not been more widely commented on than that. And you know, people are not concerned about it because these are unelected.
No, this is like a phrase from Dungeons and Dragons. Absolutely. Okay. No, look. Okay, let's put this into historical context. Okay, that's my job here. Henry Kissinger and Richard M. Nixon secretly, clandestinely, with back channels, opened up to China. Yeah. Now, given the playbook that's being presented to the public, then Nixon should have been impeached. Okay, because there was a consensus, a real one too, and with the defense community, the intelligence community, the State Department, there was very few people that could open up their imagination and think of the world as a way it could be different. Okay, I mean, for all of Richard Nixon's faults, and they were, but his foreign policy prowess has been grossly underestimated by history. Okay, I'm not here to carry water for Nixon, but if you look how Nixon and Kissinger conducted that policy. I mean, that's Bismarck level. I mean, that is the best as it can get. Again, not to carry water for Henry Kissinger, but his book Diplomacy is well worth reading, and it's documented how it was done. But given the standards of today of the Democratic Party and the liberal media and the deep state, Richard M. Nixon should have been impeached, removed, and probably in prison. That's the historical analogy.
He could not have done what he did with China. There would not have been an opening to China.
Or even détente. Even
détente with Russia, because that would have contradicted the opinions of the, inverted commas, the interagency or the US government policy community. I mean, it is extremely worrying. I mean, it's a coup. I can't really.
It has never been made clear. It has never been defined why Ukraine is important to the national security of the United States or any other NATO country.
Yes.
What is its national security significance?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I could leave that open and we could wait a long time for an answer. But you know what? There isn't one.
No.
This is a fraud.
Yes.
At every single level, it is a fraud. And if you want to know what really happened, you have a corrupt country that had an illegal coup against a duly elected president, and then you have these corrupt carpetbaggers come in, and Burisma, everybody in the EU and in energy circles knew that Burisma was the pit of corruption. Everybody knew it, even before the illegal coup. All right, and then you have Joe Biden and his son come in, and they just make it worse. That is a scandal. That is a real scandal. Those are real events, not someone's opinion about the nature of Donald Trump's foreign policy.
Yeah.
And I want to make very clear, I think Donald Trump's made a lot of mistakes in foreign policy, and I've said it on my own program, and I've said it on these podcasts, but we're looking at process here, and we're looking at precedent. And what's going on right now is a travesty.
Indeed. Can I just quickly add one very short point to Peter's comments about Burisma? Burisma was also under investigation in Britain, and its assets were frozen here. It is widely perceived in Britain as a deeply corrupt company. And when the Ukrainians dropped their investigation of Burisma, apparently there were some people in Britain within the various investigative agencies who were upset about it. I just mentioned that.
Well, that's a fact, and it's a
fact. It's a fact. It's an absolutely documented fact. There's no mystery about this. Not that you'd ever know about this fact from reading the New York Times.
Yep.
Well, actually, Biden the other day in an interview mentioned how what he was doing in Ukraine was in accordance with partners like the IMF. So all these guys, they all knew all the money that was getting poured into Ukraine. They all went in there. They all wanted a piece of the action, from the oligarchs in Ukraine to the Bidens, the Hunter Bidens, the Devon Archers, and all these guys. They all wanted a piece of the money. Let's not forget that the Clinton Foundation also got around 20 million from Pinchuk as well. I think he was the highest donor, one of the highest donors to the Clinton Foundation. Yep. They all wanted a piece of the action, Peter. And then as they were thinking Hillary's going to stay and Hillary's going to win, and we're going to continue this ransacking of Ukraine and the IMF, our taxpayer money, Americans, European citizens, our money. These guys are getting it in through the back door. They thought another 8 years of Hillary. In comes Trump, and he spoils the game. They're all pissed off because they're taking money.
Right.
They're taking money from their hands.
And plus, we have that insurance policy where you have a member of the DNC meeting in the Ukrainian embassy in Washington, D.C. to soliciting dirt on Donald Trump in his orbit. Okay, that was their insurance policy to make sure. They were deeply involved in it. We even had Ukrainian authorities, which, we have to take at face value. It's an extremely corrupt country. But even they admitted that the Ukrainian government unduly was involving itself in meddling in American domestic politics.
Absolutely.
That is a fact, okay? And all the liberals, all the Democrats want to deny any of this happened. Oh, it's a fake story. You can't be serious. Everything they say, there's no basis in fact, other than a deep stater's opinion, which if you don't like working for the boss, then quit and go work for some left-wing nut think tank and complain over there. But sitting there determining how American tax dollars are doled out, that's not your decision to make. That your job is to give counsel, not and counsel that is for the American interest, not your opinion, and an opinion that is very highly politically biased.
Alexander, I wrote about Hunter Biden in 2014 after I read a Zero Hedge article on him, and I did some more research and I wrote about what was going on. I was so furious, Alexander, from the fact that all this money, and you've documented well, all this money from the IMF and the EU went to Ukraine, who's not even a member of the EU. It went to Ukraine at the same time, or a little bit after, the European Union demolished Greece. I lived through it. Demolished Cyprus, went into our banks, took our money literally overnight.
Yes.
They took our money, closed our accounts, closed our banks, and they were giving money to Ukraine so they could wage this war. And so that guys like Hunter Biden and Devin Archer and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Chelsea Clinton and all these guys could make out with the money from the IMF on the backside, laundering it. Back through where? Back through Cyprus again, laundering it, Alexander, from Cyprus to Latvia to the US.
Indeed.
It's infuriating.
And Ukraine was no better off.
And where'd that money go? Exactly. Where did it go?
It's now the poorest country in Europe. I think that's officially the case. But can I just say quickly, I mean, not only is every point you've made about Cyprus, about Greece, about all of these things, about how these countries were obliterated economically by the very same people who were helping Ukraine economically. Only they weren't helping Ukraine economically. They were engaging in this great geopolitical play against Russia, because it's about Russia that this is all about in the end.
Alexander, real quick, obliterated. We had capital controls. I couldn't go to the bank and take money out of my own bank account for 6 months because of all this shit.
Well, Alex, Greece has also had capital controls. Yeah. I think they're still there. I mean, the last time I was trying to take money out of Greece,
Biden's getting 50, 80K a month for doing nothing.
Well, exactly. He didn't even go to Ukraine, apparently. I mean, this is the other extraordinary thing. I mean, apparently he attended these board meetings, these Burisma board meetings twice a year, and they didn't even happen in Ukraine. And nobody's been able to say what exactly he was doing for all that money, which was not $50,000, by the way. It seems it was more likely $80,000.
Yes.
Yeah. But, it's very interesting that Joe Biden cites the IMF as supporting his position, when, of course, when the IMF loaned all that money to Ukraine, it's actually breaking its own rules. I mean, at multiple levels, not least by virtue of the fact that the IMF, that Ukraine was at that time in default,
right,
to Russia, which is a member of the Paris Club, and IMF rules expressly forbid loans to countries that are in default to members of the Paris Club. So I mean, it's so wrong at so many levels that, we just didn't really know where to start. I gather there's even a story now that the Ukrainians have lost their own gold reserves. They don't know what's happened to them. They just vanished, apparently. So that's
Ukraine, now Lebanon.
Yeah,
they're just going in there taking people's gold. It's infuriating. Go on, Alexander.
Well, no, I mean,
infuriating.
Well, there we go. But I mean, it goes on all the time. I think it was over the course of one of our recent lives that I talked about Argentina and how Argentina was loaned this vast sum of money, $58 billion. I think it only got $50 billion. And this is again a country on the brink of financial collapse. And again, this isn't somehow commented upon. All sorts of people have done very well from these loans. But as I said, the countries that are receiving these loans haven't done very well. But this is a long-running problem with the IMF. If we come back to this impeachment, you see all sorts of agendas being simultaneously followed. You have the deep state neocon people that Peter was commenting about, who are very unhappy with the president's policies. They don't like the fact that he wants to improve relations with Russia. They are worried that he might falter in the commitment to Ukraine. There are also the people who were in Ukraine. I'm going to name him Hunter Biden, his father, all those people, they're very worried about investigations being launched that might actually find out what we're really up to in Ukraine.
John Brennan,
Exactly.
John Brennan in Ukraine, John McCain.
All of those people.
Name them all, Alexander. Name all the carpetbaggers, all the people that were in Ukraine during the coup. John Brennan, how many times did he go to Ukraine?
Well, I can't.
Every month he was there.
Alex, if I was to name them all, we would probably the whole program would be. There's not enough popcorn. Sorry. There is not enough. Then there's the third group, which is the Hillary Clinton gang at the DNC, who are still very angry by the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't become president in 2016 and had been gunning for Trump ever since. And so all of these groups, these various groups, they interconnect. You have the DNC, which is also, of course, involved with Ukraine, because Ukraine was helping them in 2016. They were meddling in the election with the DNC. There was this extraordinary Ukrainian individual, Alexandra Chalupa, who was acting as a sort of bridge between the DNC and Ukraine. And Peter's absolutely right when he says, by the way, that all of this is documented, it's been admitted to by the Ukrainians themselves. So you have the deep state people who don't like Donald Trump's policies. You have the other deep state people who are worried about the fact that all their dirty tricks are going to come out into open view and all the things they were involved in with Russiagate. You have the Democrats who are worried about the fact that Donald Trump is investigating or wants to see investigated their involvement with the Ukrainians also. You have all the corrupt carpetbaggers you were talking about who are worried about, what would happen if the full truth about what was going on in Ukraine were to come out. You have all of these groups, they've come together. Firstly, they came together over Russiagate. Now they're coming together over Ukrainegate. But let's always remember the real investigation is also underway. And that's the investigation that William Barr and John Durham are looking into. Well, that's what they're ultimately worried about.
I think that's what the puppet masters are doing right now. Is they're trying to muddy the waters as much as possible, because Durham and Barr, it's only a matter of time before they're going to be released. And Trump is, again, if he doesn't wimp out, because he has a pattern now of doing it. I think after the Durham and Barr stuff comes out, it's time for Trump to declassify all this stuff, all of it. Okay, really. Look, I mean, for me, the greatest paradox of all this is the following: with some small exceptions that Trump trumpets, he hasn't really deviated all that much from the deep state agenda. I mean, this is the paradox of it all. He's fiddled with this and he's fiddled with that, but overall, the picture hasn't really changed. All right, and he cannot be, and I have to say this in the most disappointing way, he can't be accused of changing very much. I mean, I think he embarrassed himself terribly with this Syria policy, terribly so. And what does he get for it? He gets nothing in return for it. That's why he has to go, as Steve Bannon said, full animal, full animal. These people want to destroy him. He has a lot of tools in his toolbox, and now maybe he's waiting for the reports to come out on the investigators. And then he's going to go total animal on these people. And I hope he does, because what is at stake here? You had at an event, I used it on Crosstalk, where you had a former CIA director saying, thank God for the deep state, with John Brennan sitting next to him. This is being normalized. The deep state is being normalized and legitimized by the left right now. And this is very dangerous. So as I asked on my program, then why do we have elections? If we have people that will hide behind the words of patriotism and morality, these people are the antithesis of patriotism and morality. This is the path to authoritarian rule. And I say that carefully. All right. I mean, what the intelligence community does, well, what they should do is collect intelligence. That's what they're supposed to do. Okay, and then you can make thoughtful and solid policy suggestions. Yeah. It's not your place to say if a policies are right or wrong. What you do is present options, and the president of the United States, elected officials of the United States, must make those decisions. If you let this celebration of the deep state, the way it is being normalized in the media, you lose the republic completely, and it's not in good shape right now, folks. Okay, not at all. With everything is pay to play. This whole Ukraine thing is pay to play. All right, and it crosses parties, and it is headed and controlled and directed by the deep state. And Donald Trump has found himself in the crossfire, and he has tools he can use, and I'm hoping that he will, because this whole story with his quote unquote involvement in Ukraine-gate is laughable on its face. It doesn't even pass the smell test.
Yeah, Alexander, I agree with Peter. Yes, Trump has a lot of tools, and to me, the last straw for me is Epstein. And Barr better get to the bottom of Epstein. Barr better get to the bottom of Russiagate. Alexander, I think all of us, all three of us, and everyone that's watching us right now, I think when Russiagate ended, we all kind of, breathed a little, took a sigh of relief.
I remember saying that. Remember?
Yeah, kind of, okay, this ridiculous, stupid thing is over. And then comes Ukraine-gate, which is, I didn't think they could think up something more dumb, but they thought it up. And now they're pushing it. Now they got this impeachment inquiry. Alexander, they dicked us around with Kavanaugh, Smollett, Weinstein,
Covington,
Epstein, Covington, Brexit. Assange is rotting in a prison right now. People are getting sick of this shit. Yes. They're really getting sick of it. Brexit, 3 years they were jerking around.
Yes.
The UK public for 3 years. And now look where we are. What do we have to do? What do we have to say for Trump, for Barr, for all these guys to get their act together and do something?
Well, I hope Barr and Durham are doing something. It's going to be very difficult because we're taking on lots and lots of people, and the media, of course, which has now become the handmaiden of power, is going to be completely dead against them. So, I mean, if people like Comey and Brennan get indicted, then of course you can be absolutely sure that all hell is going to break loose.
All hands on deck.
Absolutely. So that is what we need. We need, first of all, to do programs like this. We need to be able to say these things so that the truth is out there and it's spoken about, because the really deadly thing, the moment that it all ends and the national security state has won and the republic is gone, is when people don't talk about these things. And we have to support these investigations and hope that these investigations do achieve an eventual outcome. I have to say this, I'm very worried about the investigation into the Epstein thing, because it seems to me that a curtain of silence has now descended upon it. Ever since Epstein died, if he died, I think he did die. But anyway, I'm sure he did die. But ever since Epstein's death,
your skepticism is warranted. I'm sorry, Fred.
Amy Roback, who is ABC anchor, mainstream as they get, says that she's 100% sure that he was killed, that he was murdered. I don't know more than she does. I don't know anything. I've heard some stories coming out about how he died.
But this is what happens here, is when there isn't transparency.
Exactly.
For so long, when there's no transparency, then people are going to start searching for ideas, and then they come up with theories, okay? Exactly. It's not surprising this happens at all right? Now, this may be some kind of insidious plan where everybody accuses the other of being conspiracy theorists, and the deep staters just sit back and eat popcorn and laugh at us, okay? Yes. I mean, that's part of the CIA's mission, okay? Absolutely. One of the things I found really interesting, I don't think many people commented, no one did as far as I know. Alexander and Christopher, you and I watch Tucker every morning. Tucker took a real jab at Lindsey Graham. I don't know if you caught that. It was last week. And he was, he said, well, last time he was on the program or spoke to Fox, he was going to call this person in and he was going to have a committee on this. And Lindsey Graham has been seen to be quite quiet. And the supposition is that, the deep state visited him and told him what the stakes are. And, he's a deep stater too. I mean, he's a neocon to the core.
Yes.
And it's interesting. This is kind of stream of consciousness now, but as we speak right now, there's speculation that Bolton might or might not testify on Thursday. And my feeling is he's probably not going to throw Trump under the bus because he's more concerned with the deep state and he wants to keep the status quo. He and probably Lindsey Graham think they need to get through Trump, just get through his time in office and they can start putting the pieces back together. I think that's wrong. I don't think it's going to happen. It shouldn't happen. Yes. But the fact that Lindsey Graham is kind of soft pedaled a bit, he'll come out swinging for Kavanaugh. But when it comes to issues of dealing with the deep state, he's a lot more reticent. It's interesting to watch.
Yes. The other thing I was going to add, and of course, I note what Peter said. The other thing I'm going to say is this: that how people vote in the 2020 election and whom they vote for is going to matter a very great deal. This is the most important election in US history that I can remember. I mean, it really is. What happens in Britain in the election that's coming up in a few weeks' time? Britain is a sideshow. Let's not be under any illusions about this. Brexit does matter. What happens to Brexit matters a lot in Europe and in Britain. But Britain is not the central country. It's not a key country like the United States is. The way people vote in 2020 is going to decide the future, not just of the United States, but of many other countries beyond that, and it will shape our world.
I was thinking, I was taking on Moscow's wonderful underground metro system. I was thinking of all of the negative commentary from the schmucks in the liberal media about Trump's speech about al-Baghdadi's death, and he's so coarse and crude. And he's a brute and he's a bully. And remember what Obama said about Osama bin Laden.
Most of it wasn't true.
But what was really interesting is that I watched what Trump had to say very carefully. And what struck me the most is not what he said at all.
No.
Is how it was received.
Yes.
And by whom. And I'll tell you, 60 million plus people said, hey, this guy talks like us. Yes. So that's exactly the way I would describe what happened to that terrorist. And Trump he added percentage points in the polls for that speech alone, because he talks like the American people do, or at least half the population. And these elites don't get it. I mean, I knew this before he ran for president. I knew this when he was running for president. And I've known this since he's been president. That's the way the guy talks.
Yes.
But these people can't accept it because he speaks in an idiom that is completely alien to him, to them. And Trump, and Alex Christopher and I have commented on this many, many times. Trump should stay on the stump, okay? That he should do this every week. Fill up those stadiums and call these people on. Now, this isn't a ringing endorsement of Donald Trump. I want to be careful here. But he has to keep the pressure on. That's one of his tools, because people are receptive to the way he talks. And he has to continue to control the narrative. That has been the secret of his presidency, whether it's a successful or a failed presidency. He is a master in controlling the narrative, and he has to keep doing it.
All right. Let's see. Squeegee says, do you think the Greeks would vote or exit, quit the EU if they were given the vote like Great Britain did? No, they would not quit. I'll answer that real quickly. They would not quit the EU. Greece is very much inside the EU, even if they put it to a vote. Alexander, I agree with Peter that Trump needs to go to the people. He needs to speak to the people. But I'll also say this, Alexander, Peter, my hunch is if Trump does not in the next year get some indictments, get something moving on the Comey, Brennan, Clapper front, on the bar front with Epstein, on any of these things, then I think you're going to have 60 million really pissed off people. That's just my hunch.
No, that's an interesting hunch. But the thing is that what these people have done with these ridiculous stories and cover-ups and lies and leaks is that Trump can make a case and say, look, I didn't do any of these things. All right. These people are blocking me every step of the way. And that there will be truth in that. There will be truth in it. So I think you bring up a very valid point, but I think it's how you spin it. Because if you're in an airport, you'll see how CNN treats the president of the United States with contempt. And a lot of people that go through airports are not from New York and California, but they're from all over the country. Okay, I think in American political culture, the underdog phenomena is very, very powerful. They see all this array of forces, unprecedented in history. I remember, I was a kid, but I remember Watergate, but and there was disdain for Nixon, but not on this level. It's not even comparable. He still was president. They don't even give him that.
No.
Alexander, has Comey flipped? He seems quiet.
He's probably quiet because his lawyers, knowing the fact that he's now the subject of a criminal investigation, are advising him to stay quiet, because the danger for Comey, if he goes on television and starts speaking, is that he will implicate himself. He already has to.
He has already.
But I am sure that's the advice he's been given, which is to
keep
his mouth shut. All of them, and we're going to probably see less of them. Can I just come back to the point you made way back in 2017-18, when the Republicans gradually started to understand that Russiagate was a hoax, and we started to see things coming out of the House Intelligence Committee, which is then Republican-led, and the House Judiciary Committee. My big concern, and the things I was constantly flagging, is that they were taking so long, they were being so slow, they were being so deferential to the intelligence community and the deep state and the FBI and the Justice Department, which was in those days led by Jeff Sessions, that they were going to lose control of the House in the congressional elections in November 2018. And that when that happened, all these investigations that they had launched through the various committees would die. That's exactly what happened. Barr, fortunately, came along and he picked up the torch. The danger, if we don't get indictments over the next few months before the 2020 election, is that it will give the Democrats the time to shape the narrative. That's what they did in 2018, and it won for them in the congressional elections in November 2018, which didn't go completely for them, by the way, but sufficiently for them that they gained control of the House. And the same danger exists with the Barr-Durham investigation now. That is why politically we need indictments.
Okay, but that's a fascinating point. But the interesting thing for me is I think we'll see impeachment go through the House this year in December.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, a number of things can happen, but let's just do the straight playbook here. Then there's a trial in the Senate. Unlike this kangaroo court that Schiff is running, and it truly is, truly. What they do is they drip leak all leaks, the leaks, they cherry pick every few phrases that they like. They can keep doing that and the media will continue to support it. But when the trial comes to the Senate and you have the Supreme Court Justice Roberts presiding, it's a public trial.
Yes.
It's public. Right now, it is behind closed doors. Appalling procedures are being put into place, changing the rules to suit this is purely partisan. The founders warned against this, very much so, that it should not be a partisan affair over policy. It should be a bipartisan endeavor over crimes. There's no crime here. And when it goes to the Senate and there's a trial, you can't do it behind closed doors. And you do have lawyers. And Trump he'll be able to make his case. And just given the numbers, who cares about Mitt Romney? Why do people in Utah even give him a shot? You forget Mitt Romney. You're not going to move. You're not going to see the GOP abandon Trump. And so I think if it goes to a public trial, which I think works to Trump's advantage, the Democrats and the liberal media will be humiliated again. Now, on the issue of Epstein, I don't know, Alexander and Christopher, this thing is just so shrouded. It's been shrouded for years right now, not just his apparent death. There's truly a bipartisan, unified front not to let this story go any further. Now, Barr is in a huge dilemma. How is he going to wiggle out of this one? Because I have to think, he probably knows a lot more, obviously, than any of us do. Unfortunately, in our charged environment, anything related to Epstein is going to be politically sensitive. And so I do agree with you on that. But because it's a very bizarre story, it's almost in its own box. And I think you can separate. I mean, it does create outrage and rage with people, but I think it's a separate story that the electorate consumes in this election season. I'm actually strangely happy, hoping that there will be an impeachment of Trump, because when he's impeached, he can defend himself. Yes. The process, the way it is now, he can't.
No, exactly. I think I agree with that, by the way. I entirely agree. I think from Trump's point of view, the best thing that could happen now is a trial in the Senate. I very much hope that Chief Justice Roberts does not dismiss the case on the basis that there is no case to answer, because though I happen to think that there is no case to answer, I think if that happens, again, there will be a huge outcry. The Democrats will say it's been closed down by a Republican justice.
No, but Justice Roberts, you do not want to mess with him.
Oh, I entirely agree with that.
You do not want to mess with him. And I think he'll be like a Burke cow. He will essentially say, are you insulting my intelligence? Are you insulting the intelligence of the Supreme Court? I mean, I don't think he would not take fools lightly, okay?
No, I'm sure that's right. But as I said, I think better have all of these people come before the Senate. By the way, I also think it'll be very quick, because very difficult to see what other witnesses there are to this. The so-called whistleblowers apparently are not going to testify. So, I mean, it seems...
Yeah, but I mean, even on a point like that, Justice Roberts will say that the president of the accused, the president of the United States, is not allowed to confront his accusers. He's going to say, get out of my court.
Yes.
Get out.
Yes.
There's no place for you here. This is not a star chamber.
Yes.
Okay? No, I mean, Schiff and Pelosi and all of these people, they face huge hurdles when they're on a level playing field.
Well, indeed.
They have hurdles. They're not on a level playing field right now.
Yes.
This is so skewed. I had a guest on yesterday, and he asked me, he said, Peter, are you going to cover this? And I said, well, maybe a little bit as it goes along. It's going to be a long process, at least in the next few weeks here. But there's nothing to grab onto. So I don't really want to justify it and legitimize it, because that's what it is. It's a hoax, another hoax.
Yes.
Alexander, if this goes to the Senate and there's a trial, here's my concern. And I think what Peter's saying is right, but my concern is this. We saw Russiagate, and it wasn't a trial, but we saw the Mueller testimony. We saw a lot of people testify.
Yes.
What did we get in Russiagate? Flynn arrested.
Yes.
Papadopoulos arrested. Carter Page ruined. Roger Stone about to go on trial. Yes. What have we got, and what win has Trump and Barr put together? Who's been indicted? Who's been arrested on the Trump and on the Republican side? Even though we saw Mueller, we saw that testimony.
Yes.
Mueller was a bumbling idiot.
Yes.
He had no clue what the hell was going on.
No.
What happened? The story faded away.
He was Forrest Gump.
We saw Smollett get off. We saw Weinstein. What's happening with Weinstein? The whole Me Too thing. Everyone was outraged. What's happened to Weinstein? Last I heard is that he won a lawsuit for like 40 million.
Yes.
He's walking around.
Yes.
Kavanaugh? Who paid the price in Kavanaugh? No one. The Covington kids, they lost their case.
Yes.
They're redoing it now, but they lost.
Yes, I know. Quite.
CNN got off.
Alex, if there are not going to be indictments coming out of the Barr-Durham case within the next few months, and I would expect them to start appearing fairly soon, and if they haven't happened by March, then I would be very worried, actually. I would be extremely concerned.
I think that there will be an indictment.
I think there will
be.
And
I think, and I say this carefully, it's not impossible that Barack Obama will be named as an unnamed co-conspirator. Counterintelligence operations on this level go through the White House.
Yes.
So when did he know it?
Yes. I mean, the other thing actually that you pointed to, Alex, in all that you said, is a grossly politicized judiciary, which is what we have in the United States. I mean, absolutely.
It's what we have in the UK now, Alexander.
We have in the UK.
You documented it.
Absolutely.
There you go.
With a Supreme Court judgment, which, as I said, would have been inconceivable to me a few years ago. I mean, even a few weeks ago, actually. But in the United States, and this has been the pattern throughout the Trump years, I've been seeing decision after decision after decision coming out of the courts, which just has not made any kind of sense to me. The one thing I would say is that the institution that has stood like a rock up till now has been the Supreme Court. The decisions it has been making do not show the kind of political bias in the United States, which, the alarming political bias that I've been getting out of some decisions. I mean, some of the decisions have been bizarre. But it seems to me, again, kind of getting out of the weeds and looking at the big picture here. I mean, the strategy is to soil Donald Trump in the eyes of the electorate. Yes.
But people have already made up their mind. I don't think they're swing voters in 2020.
No.
I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. How can you have not made up your mind? Okay. And I think Trump's internal polling, they're being told this. I mean, Nancy Pelosi said something, I don't know, it was an op-ed in the New York Times or the Washington Post. She said something very telling. I mean, it was, her party is of billionaires and cross-dressers, okay? That's the Democratic Party these days, okay? But she did say something, she had a moment of clarity as her dentures were chattering. You have to win the Electoral College.
Yeah.
Okay, don't forget, because you forgot in 2016. Don't forget. And again, that's the only thing the Trump administration is doing, is wanting to win the Electoral College.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what they want to do is not lose what they got in 2016.
Yes.
Now that's a viable strategy. It's very viable. Okay.
Yes.
And so this whole strategy on the part of the Democrats, it's a daily adrenaline rush if you're obsessed with this nonsense.
Yes.
I don't think most people are.
Yes.
I think like prescription drugs, immigration, trade.
Yes.
This is what everyone, medical costs. And this is what people are talking about. The Democrats and the liberal media, they put on a show for each other every single day in support of the deep state. But that's like, that's like believing that Twitter is representative of public opinion. It's not. It's representative of people on Twitter.
Yes.
But it doesn't represent anything else. It doesn't signify anything.
Well, it's gross.
And as long as they keep barking at each other, it just takes all the oxygen out of the room. And I think a lot of people are going to say, you didn't even give him a chance to do his job. You people in the media.
Yes.
I think that is the strategy. Maybe I'm out of touch here, but who's left undecided when it comes to Donald Trump? He's the most polarizing political figure in recent memory.
All right, guys.
I agree with that. Yeah.
We're an hour plus in. Hit that like, Share the channel if you're not subscribed. Please
Buy
subscribe.
a T-shirt and
Buy-
tell someone to like us because I want 100,000 followers.
That's right.
Okay,
Here's some
Indeed.
mugs, some magic
Okay.
mugs. What do you guys say we do some super chats?
Absolutely.
All right. From Boneless Ear, super chat 100 Czech kroners, I believe. It's Czech kroners, yeah. Epstein did not kill himself. That's a super chat.
What I
Yeah.
suggest you do is go onto the internet, get the phone number of the Department of Justice, and leave a message for Bill Barr, and say, can you get back to me on this question?
Do you guys think Barr's investigating this? Honestly,
I
do you
don't
think
know.
Barr's
I
investigating
simply
this?
don't know.
No, if you had to take a guess.
No,
I think yes.
I think yes.
Yes. I'm guessing no, actually. And
Okay.
that worries me. That really does worry me.
Why? Why do you
we
say
need-
no?
Well, because I think if there'd been an investigation, we would have heard something about it by now. I think there has to be an investigation. There should be an investigation. We need to have all these pathologists in some kind of open hearing where they can all argue with each other, where there could be a proper testimony taken from all the various witnesses. And then we can reach an informed view about what actually happened. As we stand at the moment, we have this report from what was I can't remember, the official body that looked into this, and they said that he committed suicide and that all the evidence is that he committed suicide. But there doesn't seem to be, any attempt to address these concerns that are arising and which other forensic pathologists are expressing. Now, I am not taking a position about this. I generally, truly do not know. But until we get a proper hearing, a proper investigation that looks into all of these things, more and more people are going to be asking those kind of questions and making those kind of statements.
I think it is being investigated for the following reason, is that I think we all saw the clip on Tucker where they had that pathologist come out and, how many autopsies have you done? 10,000 of them, I mean, obviously a credible person, okay? Yes. But there's a sticking point here, you guys. You can put up all of the graphs of bones and anatomy and all of that. That's not going to be enough for the average person. It's not even going to be enough for me. I don't understand these things well enough, okay? So he says this, and then he says this, and then she says this. And I'm going to be, I cannot judge. I'm not competent. However, I'm smart enough to understand. Did the cameras work? What guard was where, when? What was he left alone at this amount of that? These are questions everyday people have and want to and can understand the answers to. And that's what Barr is going to have to do. If you're going to leave it to, well, this pathologist versus this pathologist, it's not going to go anywhere. And maybe that's the strategy. Maybe that's the strategy. I don't know.
Peter,
go ahead.
No, what I wanted to say is we have in England, and it's a very good system, we have in cases of unnatural death, something that's called the coroner's inquest. There is a specific type of judge called a coroner who convenes a hearing.
Lynn Penwenko had that.
Exactly. Well, we never actually got the coroner's inquest. Let's not go into that because there are lots of due process issues about that one. But we've had lots. I mean, this is what happened, and we're not getting one either, by the way. On some of the Skripal case, there was that woman who died, and the coroner's inquest there has been postponed indefinitely, which is very disturbing. But the whole purpose of a coroner's inquest is where there is an unnatural death, you have all the witnesses, all of the information brought in open hearing, presided over by a trained judge, if you like. A coroner is a kind of judge, and it's all spoken about in public, and various parties who have an interest in it can attend, and they can attend through counsel, and they can ask questions of the witness. And this is a process that works very well and usually arrives at an answer that most people accept. I don't know, because I simply don't know whether you have the same kind of system in the United States and in New York. But it cries out for something like this. I mean, it's terrible that we are not getting that kind of investigation.
One of the problems that I'm glad you explained that to us about the UK. The way it works in the United States, this is a partial answer and not a full one because I don't know all of the intricacies of it. But what happens very often in the United States is a jurisdiction turf war. Okay, so it's New York City versus a district court versus the federal government, and that's how things get lost. That's how things get screwed up. One party doesn't want to work with another. They withhold information. This happens all of the time. Yes. Now, Barr, obviously it falls in his lap and it's a political dynamite for him. That's why I think they are looking at it. What I worry is that when there is some kind of presentation of some kind of results or determinations, is that will we be able to understand it without creating another series of conspiracy theories? That's my major concern.
Yes.
Peter, I have a question for you. And this has been bothering me since the whole Epstein thing was brought back up. Last week or a week and a half ago, we have this pathologist, this Brazen guy, show up on Fox and Friends. Then Tucker talks about it. Then Janine Pirro, even Laura Ingraham, they start talking about it for 3-4 days. The story died down for, I believe, 2-3 months. It just disappeared. And then this Brazen guy, all of a sudden, boom, he's on Fox. A week later, you have this leak to Project Veritas. And yesterday we get this big bombshell. ABC News, Amy Robach. Do you think this is, I mean, something doesn't feel right with all this. Do you think this is an answer? This is my hunch. Maybe you have a different hunch. Maybe you agree. Do you think this is like some sort of message to Chuck Schumer's 6 ways to Sunday or whatever he said, 6 days of the week, whatever, for the deep state? Do you think this is kind of like a message saying, you know what? Don't screw with us too hard, or else we're going to give up some goods on Epstein. I don't know. This is just my hunch. What do you think?
Well, I don't know, but it's an interesting analysis. But again, it seems like an intentional slow burn, doesn't it? Yeah.
Something doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right. And there seems to be a kind of odd coincidence of events that one following another here. It could very well be some kind of signal. There's still a lot of civil litigation out there. I mean, there are people that want to push that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of lawyers that's going to make a boatload of money with these defendants and all that. I mean, it could be something like that, or it could be also somebody just wants to shake things up so much, just to create a very foggy, muddled news environment, which it has done, hasn't it? I mean, if that was the intention, it worked. Okay. The thing is that with the Epstein case, you can't keep doing it, okay? Because then people are going to say, well, what the hell happened then, okay? I mean, you can only stir it up so many times before it's going to start giving negative returns for whatever reason this is being done. We'll be lucky if we ever find out how he really died, but I don't think we'll ever really find out what really happened, what his whole existence. I don't think we'll ever really know because there are too many people afraid to talk about it. 6 ways to Sunday.
Alexander, what do you say about this before we get to more super chats? What's your take?
Well, my own view about Epstein, and I'm going to say this, I don't really want to make too many speculations, but I think we need to have this thing resolved very quickly. And I've heard about the fact that civil cases are not sufficient for this. There needs to be a proper criminal investigation. It may be my one big hope is that what is actually happening and that the reason things are being slow walked is because the criminal investigators may be asking questions of some of the witnesses, not just about his murder or death or suicide or whatever it was, but of people who were actually implicated in the things that they were doing. And they don't want too much coming out at the moment, which might compromise the process of that investigation. That does happen. I don't have a good feeling about this, and I'm going to say this straightforwardly. My own feeling, on the contrary, is that this whole thing is being closed down.
We'll find out.
We'll
Or
find
not.
out.
Or not.
Or
Or
not.
not.
I know.
You know,
All right.
as someone said to me once, he said, it was the biggest story of all time until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't. Yeah. I mean, we still don't even know really who this man was.
Yeah.
No, we have no idea.
We've no idea. I mean, that in itself is remarkable.
I have to give compliments to Alex Christopher when he was on Crosstalk and we discussed this topic.
Yeah.
You hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah.
Once we know who this man was, then we'll understand what happened. And we still don't know who he was.
Will we ever know? And probably we'll never know.
Yeah, no.
That's the sad part. All right. Yeah, Alexander?
I just wanted to say, I mean, I don't know whether you saw, I know Alex has, I know you've seen, Peter, the film of those guys who went to his island secretly and took all sorts of films there, and there are all these gargoyles that they photographed. But I mean, the most bizarre thing of all is this weird temple that he had, which it turns out is an absolute fake. It's all boarded up. It's just a wooden thing.
Alexander, Peter, I mean, when I saw that video, I was thinking, shouldn't there be like yellow police tape around and people like cordoning off the area, investigating?
Well, apparently it was full of mattresses as well.
Yes. The whole thing is so strange, but it
about
all
the
looked
Bill
very
Clinton?
contrived.
What about this Bill Clinton picture, the painting of him in a dress, in a blue dress?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Amy Robach said, we have pictures. We have the pictures, she said.
Yes.
We have the pictures. You know what? That information is on a server at ABC News. They've got more. They've got a lot more as to what was going on with Epstein.
Yes.
Expect some more leaks. That's what I think. Expect some more leaks as the Democrats press and the deep state press. Expect some more.
Or maybe we can be optimistic and somebody in the Justice Department gave him a gag order.
There you go.
Well, that's the best possible take on this.
I mean, Veritas, Veritas has its own agenda. Okay,
yes.
It's not in the mix here. I
No.
mean, it knows it's a third rail, and they're going to use it to their full advantage. Okay, I'm not condemning or endorsing Project Veritas. Okay?
Yes, but I mean, if there is a gag order, and that's why we have all this radio silence, then that's actually a good sign.
Okay, let's move on. Some more super chats. Alexander from AP. If Turkey quits NATO and commits to Russia, realistically, which issues can Russia help Turkey? Kurds in Syria, Iraq. 2, Greece and Cyprus. 3, Armenia, Azeri.
Well, this is such an enormous, you're talking about here a diplomatic revolution on a massive scale, because Turkey has been anchored in the NATO alliance for a very, very long time. And the history of relations between Turkey and Russia, going all the way back to the 17th century, has been long, tangled, often extremely belligerent. There have been many Russian-Turkish wars. So we would be talking about an immense event. There are certain obvious benefits for Turkey. I mean, there are economic benefits. Turkey is now getting more and more help financially from China. It's now been effectively confirmed. The reason we see the Turkish lira strengthening is because the Chinese have been quietly bailing out Turkey. The Russians have turned Turkey into a major investment, oil, gas, energy hub. Yeah. And of course, there are many synergies between the Russian and Turkish economies. The Turks are heavily involved in construction in Russia. The Russians have large numbers of tourists who go to Turkey, all kinds of things. And maybe in time, Russians, we know, have tremendous diplomatic skills. The Russians can help the Turks sort out their issues with the Armenians, which the Turks have to do at some point. I mean, it's a major problem for Turkey that they don't seem able to confront that. The issue with the Armenians, and ultimately perhaps the issue with the Kurds. But before we start talking about this, I need to see a diplomatic revolution like that happen. I don't think we're anywhere close to that point yet. I think Erdogan at the moment is just playing everybody off against each other and getting the greatest possible benefits that he can. I think that's really the game that we're looking at the moment. And I don't see this break coming. At least that's my view. Peter.
I couldn't have said it better. I'm not going to add anything to it. It's perfectly said.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, a super chat from Sparky. Prosecutor Acosta was told that Epstein was intelligence, so the issue was above his pay grade. Ask Acosta who told him this.
Okay. Acosta, we are told that Acosta was told that. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there's the first level that you have to interrogate, and he should be interrogated for that. Was it really said? And if it was said, who said it? And is there anything to back it up?
Yes.
I mean, do you just simply, when someone snaps their finger saying national security, you back off? Really? Really? Wouldn't you want, as a prosecutor, some evidence to back that up? That's called witness intimidation, okay? And intimidating a prosecutor. So he should be cross-examined by that. And I think it's pathetic that he hasn't. I mean, that is an amazing statement to make. It's truly amazing. Nothing here, nothing to see here. Move along. Really?
Well, now I have nothing to add to what Peter just said. I mean, I agree with that completely.
Yeah. All right, Valley S, $20 super chat. Thank you, Valley S, for that super chat. From Sparky Alexander. Pompeo has Trump fooled. He's behind Haspel and is why Trump doesn't declassify everything, and also why he ignores the Assange issue. Pompeo must go.
Well, I agree. I think Pompeo should go. I think he's a terrible Secretary of State.
The worst.
I think he is an extremely dangerous man. I am sure he's been giving terrible advice to Trump on many things. You're absolutely right in saying that he has played a major role in the Assange case. It was he who first floated this bizarre theory that Assange is not a journalist, but is the head of a private intelligence agency of the people.
Adversarial.
Exactly. So yes, I think Pompeo should go. I think lots of other people think he should go. And of course, with Donald Trump, who can sack people very easily, as we have seen, perhaps the day will come when he will go. So I agree with you. I agree with the comment.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is that Trump is besieged left, right, and center 24/7, and unfortunately, he finds acceptable loyalty is enough. I mean,
yes.
and that's not good because it creates bad policy. Okay, but that's how he rolls. Okay,
it is true actually, and Pompeo, in fairness, has been very loyal to Trump. I mean, he stood by Trump when Bolton got sacked, and he's standing by Trump during these impeachment proceedings.
Could you imagine the grin on Pompeo's face when Bolton left? Could you imagine that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Could you imagine how happy he was? Okay, but he also knows that John Bolton, the guy, is truly evil. And I don't use the word very often, evil, but he truly is. But Pompeo, he had a grin from ear to ear in private, but he won't do it in public because Bolton is the type of person that has it's been said that he has a photographic memory. Yeah. So he will be able to read back anything that dork Pompeo ever said.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, that comment leads into the next super chat from Sparky. Trump's too trusting and too nice. Instead of a 24/7 firing squad until the swamp was drained, he hired swamp creatures. He has some culpability.
Of course. And you and I have said this repeatedly. I mean, it was the blackest day of Trump's administration when he hired John Bolton. It was his worst day, in my opinion. We were all aghast by it. Remember when Trump was, he was still president-elect, and he was trying to assemble his team around him. And anytime Bolton's name was raised, no, don't go there. Okay, don't go there. Now, we were all terrified that Bolton would show up at his door, and we were all horrified when he got the job, and we've seen the damage that he left in his wake. So Trump he doesn't have a lot of depth on so many of these issues here, and he's too believing. I'll support you, President, in your policies, and they do exactly the opposite. They sabotage him left, right, and center. I've never seen anything quite. We've known. The deep state, and it has existed for a long time. It's just that they don't use the term in public now. They do, but we could go through so many things. There never would have been a detente if it hadn't been for Nixon to make a bold move. They never would have been the opening to China. And the deep state is fervently pro-Israel. I mean, that is the third rail. No one even touches that.
No.
Okay. Trump has had, his presidency in one way or another will be remembered for bad HR.
Yeah, good point. Alexander from Sparky, we shouldn't assume that Trump won't be convicted in the Senate. Like conservatives in Parliament, most Republican senators are closet globalists.
Absolutely, that's entirely correct. I think, having said that a Republican senator who votes to impeach Trump in the conditions of the case we have now is taking a political risk, because
political suicide.
I think he's the electoral base, the Republican electoral base, would be furious. It's interesting that no Republican representative supported this impeachment in the House of Representatives.
And 2 Democrats were against it.
Exactly. So I think that's a stronger straw in the wind.
To answer the question in a different way, it was in August of 1973 when Barry Goldwater, the staunch conservative, he wasn't a neoconservative, he was a conservative, from the state of Arizona. Rock solid, the pillar of conservative Republicans. He went to the White House after the tapes had been made public, and he told Nixon, "I can't stand with you." And when Barry Goldwater said that, the entire Republican Party abandoned, or virtually the entire Republican Party in the Senate abandoned Nixon. And that's the conditions that would happen. There's been no crime. Because there's no crime, there's no evidence. No Republican worth their salt would vote to impeach Trump under these circumstances. They would not survive re-election. They should just simply retire from politics, because they'll be primaried. Okay, and look what they did. I was against the Clinton impeachment process. I thought it was silly. It was counterproductive. It was bad judgment. It was foolish behavior. It was arrogance, but it didn't measure up to impeachment. Okay, and the Republicans were punished severely in the next election. Ask Newt Gingrich, he lost his job.
All right, super chat from Sparky. Peter, Justice John Roberts, if not a globalist, is at least controlled by the globalists. When push comes to shove, he always falls on the wrong side.
Well, I think that's going a bit too far. I mean, that's a very broad statement. I prefer to go on a case-by-case basis, and I think that can tell you more about his judicial philosophy, and then I'm just putting one label on it. I don't think any of us know that much about Justice Roberts in this regard, okay? Though I do know that he will not be made a fool of and participate in a circus. He will not tolerate it, because he knows that right now a constitutional crisis is upon us, with the executive branch being faced off by the judicial, the legislative branch. And Justice Roberts will not be pulled into the mud. No way. He will not let that happen. I'm not saying I like every single decision he has made, but just put that label on him. I think we can do better than that.
All right, Alexander from Sparky Super Chat. Obama, despite his involvement, will be seen as a puppet, and prosecutors will use that perception to let him slide in order to avoid added controversy.
I have to say, he is an extremely elusive target, and I think there will be great resistance throughout the bureaucracy to taking any action against him. He was a very, very clever man at covering his tracks. Peter, you want to say something, and please do.
No, but even the Republicans will not go down that path. They don't. I mean, the thing is that I really hate that phrase, the adults in the room, because it's the adults in the room that has gotten us into this mess in the first place, okay? But, I mean, at a certain point, I hope, I wish, I pray that you don't want to burn down the entire artifice just for political spite, really? See, going after Obama, I already mentioned it here. Being named an unnamed co-conspirator, that will be devastating.
Yes.
Absolutely devastating. It's basically, it's an FU, okay? It's a FU, Obama.
Yes.
That's enough. People will not want to take the next step. They won't.
Yes.
And plus, I can remember when Reagan was brought in, he had left office, and he was brought in with Iran-Contra, which was real, okay? Very well documented.
Yes.
And he was pressed by both parties, and you know what? They just didn't go there.
No.
They just didn't. They just didn't.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, Peter, because of course, Iran-Contra broke the law.
Yeah.
I mean, it actually broke the law. Bill Clinton broke the law.
They were indicted. Yeah. People went to prison because it was George H. Bush on a Christmas Eve. Pardon them all. I remember. I was in a bookstore. I mean, Berkeley. I remember.
Yes. Yes. I mean, there is no law that Donald Trump has broken in Ukraine Gate. Nobody has been able to identify one because there isn't one. That's an extremely good point.
Alexander, super chat from J. Krubug. Can you comment on the European Defence Union and the UK's participation? Seems to make Brexit a moot point if the military is no longer sovereign.
Well, that makes, absolutely, if the military are no longer sovereign, they are no longer a British army and they're integrated into a European army. After we have Brexit, then really, we're not really talking about Brexit anymore, because in that situation, it becomes integrated into a European system. I have been hearing talk about this European army all my adult life.
Yeah.
If you go back in time, you will find that there was talk about it in the 1950s. There was even a time when the Germans and the French were talking about uniting their armies. That was in the early 50s. I am very skeptical that it is ever going to happen. And I would be extremely surprised if the British actually agree to it. I mean, I think the British deep state would not want it, actually, for all kinds of reasons. They don't want to be subordinated to the Europeans. I mean, that really wouldn't work for them very well. So I don't believe it's going to happen.
I agree.
All right, Peter, from Jeanette Calloway, super chat, $20. Justice Roberts is compromised, has to do with the adoption of his children. The CIA and used a super spy software called the Hammer. This will be exposed. Roberts changed his Obamacare vote overnight. Why?
I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know the details that you just mentioned. I'm not aware of it, so I don't want to comment on it. I'm not saying it's not true, just that we are very careful here. We speak with, when we know something. So I'm not dismissing it, but I can't move forward.
I have to agree with that. I'm just going to make one observation. As I said, over the course of the various very complicated and sometimes insane litigation that has happened in during the Trump years, I've had to read judgments of the Supreme Court. And most of the majority judgments have been endorsed by Roberts, and he's written the judgments. And I thought they were reasoned, well-reasoned, and right. I mean, the legal language was different to what I know, but I got the impression that this is a man who knows his law and who administers it faithfully according to his beliefs. That was my own personal view. Now, I mean, I don't know more about him, and I can't really comment about the substance of those things, but I've not seen anything in his judgments that would really concern me.
Right,
again, I just want to reiterate here, the Supreme Court under Roberts, in the entire Supreme Court, they're not going to roll in the mud on this one. No way. No way.
Yes.
I can't see it. I just can't see it.
Yes. I mean, he is not, let me say this also, I mean, he is not one of those great inspirational jurists that you sometimes get. He's not a Felix Frankfurter, to give an example. I mean, he's not on that level, but he comes across to me as a sound and stable judge. That's all I can say.
All right, Peter from Dan Noya's $10 super chat. What makes these folks so brazen? Sovereign immunity? Make the government make the government, its agencies, its employees liable for their actions, just like the private sector must do.
Yeah. That's such a good point, and I think they should be held to that standard here. The thing is, to answer the question in the shortest way possible, Hillary was supposed to win. That's why they've done all of these things. Trump derangement syndrome has taken nominally rational people, even if you don't agree with them, nominally rational people, they've gone into some kind of psychotic break. And that's what you see right now. Look, these whistleblowers, the leakers, they know they have the deep state and the liberal media to their back. They'll back them up all the way. That's why one of the reasons they become brazen here. Okay, that lieutenant colonel, you know what's going to happen to him? He'll end up in a think tank somewhere. He stood up for the country. And he was a great patriot. All of this stuff here. Here's a guy in uniform disobeying and obstructing the president of the United States, his boss. You should be shamed for doing that. You've done a disservice. Okay, but they're brazen because Hillary was supposed to win. And now they're willing to do things that are just, I mean, under normal circumstances, Adam Schiff would be laughed out of town. But because these guys these characters play for keep. And that's why they're going into this sudden death syndrome. I mean, it's like a compulsive gambler. I just want one more roll of the dice and we'll get it. It's irrational. It's irrational. And they're surrounded by equally irrational, emotional people. Again, they're all talking to themselves. They are the court of public opinion. They think. And what is so terrible is that we do not agree with them, these people. That means there's something morally wrong with us. And when you have a strategy like that, judging someone's morality on whether you agree with them or not, that is a losing proposition. It has always been a losing proposition. That's why, for me, this is one huge popcorn eating endeavor, okay? Because there's no there. And I want to stress, I like this question here. What I find so frustrating talking about this in the Epstein case, I think I speak for tens of millions of people who will be held account. That's what this is all about, is accountability. And the deep state obviously doesn't want to be held responsible, but the media is what's made it all different. Look at Iran-Contra. Look at Watergate. Look at the debate about the Vietnam War. The media played a positive role in all of those cases. They gave other sides, and now it's only one-sided. I mean, I don't know how people watch CNN. I mean, it's just one circus. I mean, it's bad reality TV that would be canceled if it was based on competition, but it's not. Look at Jeff Zucker tells us all the time. He's made it clear what the agenda of his news outlet is all about. Get Trump. Okay, maybe I am naive. Maybe I'm willing to admit it. But during Watergate, I don't think that was NBC's policy. No. I may be wrong, but I don't see it.
No, Zucker, we got him on tape saying that.
Yeah.
Sparky, super chat, Alexander. Investigators should check and see if any guards, etc., opened Bitcoin wallets around the time of Epstein's murder to receive laundered payoffs. Money trail.
Absolutely.
Money trail.
We have a live Columbo on here.
Indeed so. Follow the money, as they say. Always do so.
Follow the crypto.
Absolutely, follow the crypto. Can I just come back to what Peter was saying about the last question, which I agree, I think is an excellent question. One must make a distinction always, and it's a distinction, by the way, that I've heard lawyers and judges make, between brazen behavior and reckless behavior. Brazen behavior, let me give you examples, two examples of brazen behavior. Bill Clinton meeting Loretta Lynch on the tarmac whilst the Justice Department is investigating his wife. That is brazen. Another example of brazen behavior, Joe Biden intervening to get the prosecutor sacked who is investigating the company that is employing his son. That is brazen. That is an expression of power. You are telling everybody around you, I'm able to do these things in open sight because I am so powerful that I can get away with it. And you must take that account, my power into account. And that must shape your behavior. Reckless behavior is when you are running scared and are taking more and more risks in order to avoid the net closing in around you. Excellent. Adam Schiff conducting an inquisition in a basement in which witnesses are being interrogated in private during an impeachment proceeding, which is eventually going to end up in the Senate. That looks to me, frankly, reckless. So there is a distinction. Now, brazen behavior, if the dial turns, if the thing turns against you, that of course can eventually come to bite you. And I think it might eventually do that with both Bill Clinton and with Joe Biden. But reckless behavior, like we're looking at with Adam Schiff, like we've seen with Comey, like we've seen with Brennan, like we've seen with all of these people, that is always risky. And these people who are engaging in it are probably having trouble sleeping quietly.
Yeah, because when you know you're in trouble, you have to tell a lie to cover up the lie you just said. And it keeps compounding and so. What I find gives me great pleasure and lets me sleep well at night is that, oh, Jimbo, oh, Lordy, Jim Comey and John Brennan and McCabe and all these guys, it's all on tape. It's all on the ether. You can see it. You can't erase all of it, okay?
Yes.
You can't erase all of it. It's there for the public to gaze on.
Yes.
All right, from Dan Noyes, a super chat. We must eliminate gotcha government. The FBI must be dismantled. The CIA must be dismantled. The IRS must be dismantled. Peter, Alexander.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, if you want a greater clarity on those issues, Ron Paul has actually said a number of these things here. Yeah, I think. Look, I mean, I'm basically a small government guy. I mean, that's how I kind of look at things. I think communities should take care of themselves, okay, instead of looking for handouts. Because when there are handouts, there's always preconditions like, you know, transgender toilets and stuff like that. You know, you open yourself up to someone else's value system. And I think things should get smaller. And, you know, I'll just say the obvious to me is very simple. The United States should start taking better care of itself and its people. It would be better served to do that instead of traipsing around the world. I mean, I keep thinking of that family, that little family in Arizona that got shot up. I mean, there was a baby in that car, small children as well. I mean, they were Mormons, okay, big family. But not only were they just, you know, destroyed by military grade weapons, they were burned to death afterwards, okay? And they're worried about other countries' borders? Really? Really? The priorities are all wrong. And it's all these unelected officials in a distant place that watch each other's back and in revolving doors. What about that family that was killed on an American highway by a Mexican cartel? Where's the outrage? Yeah.
Alexander, super chat from Dan Noyes. It's amazing that here we are 242 years later debating whether or not people can rule themselves as sovereigns. Perhaps even more amazing is that many vote for their own enslavement.
Well, indeed, absolutely correct. That is so good. I mean, I can't question that comment because I agree with it. I think that's a very valid comment. I hope that the people who vote for their own enslavement are fewer in number than those who prize and hold on to their liberty. But, you know, 2020, as I said, is going to be an important year.
Right.
Yeah, but people are willing participants of plantation politics, and that's exactly what it is. Okay, you make a claim of entitlement, and then you get your entitlement, but then you sell your soul for that. Okay, and this is the type of politics that's being practiced primarily on the left. And once then you create dependency. This is look, I look at the number of black voters now that are turning for Trump. I mean, it's extraordinary what's going on. I mean, the left is terrified of that because they keep the blacks on their plantation, okay? They, and make them feel good and feel outraged and all that. But, it was the Democrats that started the KKK, okay? They're the ones that had Jim Crow. It was the Democrats that did that. It wasn't the Republicans that did it. It wasn't conservatives that did it, okay? Know your history, okay? But plantation politics is a dead end. It's a dead end for liberty. That's for damn sure.
Yes.
Peter, super chat from Dan Noyes. Give citizens standing in courts so we can sue governmental employees. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities.
Being able to put have people in authority face a court is so difficult, and it's done intentionally as well. Okay, there has to be more of that here, but you have a system now that it protects itself and wants to perpetuate it. That is a very bipartisan thing. Bipartisan, keeping foreign wars going on forever. Okay, that's truly bipartisan. A lot of these things that we're talking about are on the margins, believe it or not. Okay, there's so much more. We can talk about the Democrats in league with the media and against Trump, but that's in many ways it's a sideshow. Okay. Because what really is happening is that these people are all in lockstep on so many issues. Look how they treat Tulsi Gabbard, okay? Here's someone that's polling about 2 or 3%, and you have the entire machine come tumbling down on her, and she's still standing, God bless her. I mean, every time I see her, I think, where did she come from? I mean, there's a person with courage. And I would tend to bet they don't have a lot of dirt on her, though fair. The transparency people that watch media, which they're very, very, very good. They're very left. They came out with a pretty nasty article about Tulsi, which I was really kind of surprised, because of her support of Hindu nationalism. But which of course nobody knows anything about in the United States. They couldn't even find India if their life depended on it. But you really have to keep in mind that there's a lot more commonalities in the corridors of power than differences. We see the theatrics, all the time. We see the celebrity politics all the time. But it's a lot deeper and a lot more worrisome than I think, of course, the mainstream will ever tell us.
Okay, Alexander, super chat from Moon Dragon. There is speculation in the Serbian media that U.S. may sanction Serbia. How bad would that be?
Well, I'm surprised to some extent that the US hasn't yet sanctioned Serbia, because Serbia is so much obviously in the sights. It's a country that is clearly being targeted for a very long time by the United States and its NATO allies. But can I just say, what we have learned over the last few years is that a country can survive sanctions, provided it organizes itself effectively. One of the most interesting things I was reading recently was a report in Bloomberg about Iran. And Iran has a shaky economy, and it appeared to be one that was dependent very heavily on oil exports. And yet it seems that after a sharp recession, the Iranian economy is now adjusting successfully to the sanctions. The recession is expected to bottom out at the end of this month. Inflation is falling. The currency is strengthening. All the things that are happening in Iran go completely against the whole assumptions that there were about what would happen to Iran under sanctions. Serbia is a stronger country than Iran, economically speaking, and it has friends. It's not without friends. So it too can survive sanctions if they come. They may be tough for these Serb people, but they will, if they hold together, they will pull through.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, the sanctions by definition will hold them together. That's the historical trend of sanctions.
Yes.
It does. It brings people together. And people rally around the flag and their leaders. Okay, that is just a historical record here. I mean, this use of sanctions is so abused and it doesn't bring things to fruition. Okay, and what it does is it takes options off the table. How many politicians say, oops, well, we're going to change our mind? I mean, you can't do that. Politically, you lose too much political capital. The people don't think these things out. Nobody in power thinks these things out, okay? They always kick the can, so the next guy has to deal with it. No one is held accountable. No one is held responsible.
Okay, super chat from Paul Carden. Your trusty transcriber is here, keyboard at the ready, fingers poised, eager to finish your upcoming ebooks. Yes, Paul, thank you for reminding us. We're going to have 3 ebooks coming out in the next week or 2. Brexit, Ukraine Gate, and Epstein. And Paul has a great company that does the transcribing and helps us out with that. So Paul, put your link in the chat.
Yes.
About your company, because you really do great work, and keep an eye out, everybody, for those ebooks. They should be coming out in the next week or 2. I'll be speaking with Paul to figure out when we're going to get those ebooks out.
Excellent.
Super chat, Alexander from Sparky. In 1974, some in the Senate had integrity. Not so now. Globalists are in scorched earth mode, so Republican senators won't care if they get reelected or not.
I remember Watergate very well. I remember what was going on during Watergate. And I have to say, it is like a night and day compared with the proceedings now. I mean, the quality of legal argument in the various court proceedings, there were lots of court proceedings.
Judge Sirica,
exactly.
Peter Rodino.
Archibald Cox, the special, I mean, and I remember how the Senate operated now. As Peter said, people like Barry Goldwater behaved. We are looking at a completely different world. It is a sign of the extraordinary decay that there has been in the political system of the United States since Watergate, that what we are looking at now is a hideous caricature of what happened then when, you know, whatever you think of Nixon, and like Peter, I actually have a great respect for Nixon's conduct of foreign policy. Whatever you think of Nixon, that was the US constitutional system working as it should, as its founders intended. What we're seeing now is a grotesque caricature. I still think, and I have no great confidence or belief in most of the people in the Senate. I mean, there are few people there who are still people of great integrity. I mean, I gather Senator Rand Paul, for example, has been speaking out recently, but overall, I agree. I mean, they cannot compare with the people of those times, but they are politicians, and their instinct for survival is very strong. And as Peter rightly said, Republicans who vote to impeach Trump are toast politically, and I think they know it. So I think that's what's holding this all back.
Okay, Peter, super chat from Sparky. Election frauds turned up to 11 in 2020 for both the US and the UK.
And one more time.
Election fraud has turned up to 11 in 2020, US and
UK. I think we're going to see a lot of shenanigans. But if you look over the last couple of cycles, election malfeasance is almost exclusively on the left, not on the right, at least in the United States. What I worry about is big tech. I worry about that. Okay, I worry about them generating and disseminating fake news or distorted news. I worry about them because we have enough evidence out there for example, Google. I guess it was also Veritas that did it. You know, just executives being very open. We're not going to let that happen again. Okay. Yes. I mean, I don't remember the woman's name, but I vividly have the image in my mind. I worry about that. But I again, like I already stressed in this program, is that how many people are undecided? I just don't think there's a lot out there. I suppose obviously we have to wait for the Democratic nominee, but I think someone supporting Trump now is going to have a hard time supporting any of these political pygmies. No offense to pygmies, but I mean, there's just the parade of Democrats on that stage is it just doesn't inspire anyone. I mean, Joe Biden's in a candidate protection program. Okay, that's what he is. It's candidate protection program. I mean, wow, that guy. He should retire and be with his grandkids. Visit Hillary once in a while.
I agree with all that. I just make one caveat, which is that the United States seems to have a chaotic and very easily manipulated electoral system. The same is not true.
It's so archaic. It's a ridiculous election system. Ridiculous.
Yes. In Britain, it's much more difficult. We have a relatively simple system. We have paper ballots, which are hand counted in the presence of the candidates and their officials. It's much more difficult to manipulate a vote in Britain than it is in the United States. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it is more difficult. You can, to some extent, control the electoral register, and no doubt all kinds of things are going on there. But I think in Britain, we've not yet reached anything like the same level of crisis that you see in some parts of the United States.
Yeah, in the United States, there's a saying, vote early and often. Okay. There was a great story. I love LBJ stories.
Yeah.
That when he was running for Congress, he and his election guys, his team, they would go to cemeteries.
Yes.
And write down names of people on the tombstone, and so they could put them on the rolls.
Yeah.
And there was one famous case where one of his handlers, stepped on and over a tombstone that was laying face down. And Lyndon Johnson said, whoa, 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 whoa. And that person has just as much right to vote in this election as everybody else in the cemetery. Get the name. Okay. I mean, the system in the United States is so archaic. It's not uniform. That's why it could never be manipulated from an outside power. It just physically could not happen, okay? 22 states, they say meddling for the Russians. It's all nonsense. It was all proven to be nonsense. It's physically impossible because not only do each state have a different election process, even counties within states have different systems. It is a mishmash of everything you could possibly imagine. And the rules are based on the congressional district. There's no federal rule about election laws, or the election process, I should say.
All right, Cheryl Callahan, thank you very much for giving me a view as to how many people are watching this. 615 likes, 1.9 thousand viewing. Press that thumbs up. Let's get to 100% viewing. Yes, press that thumbs up.
Okay, all right, hang on. I'm going to take my magnifying glass to check how much energy I have left. I don't want to do
all right, go for it. Go for it. Let us know.
It's just iPhone 10. It doesn't tell you the percent, but it looks like I got 10%.
Okay, so we're wrapping up the super chats as well, guys. Before I forget, check us out on Telegram at the Duran.com. Follow us, subscribe to our Telegram channel. I just opened that up the other day. I'm going to be posting all our videos, all our articles, other comments that we have as well, notifications. I'm really loving Telegram. It's a really good platform. It's really clean. It's really easy to use. So check us out on Telegram, the Duran.com. And of course, I'll be adding promotions, coupons, discounts to the Duran shop. I'll put it all on Telegram as well. So I'll put up coupon codes on Telegram so you guys can get some really good merchandise on the Duran shop. Peter, who do you have with you over there?
That's Skippy. Oh, he just woke up and he's so warm and he's so happy and he's yawning and I'm almost finished. Yeah, I'm almost finished. Don't worry. And this is Buddy. Buddy is really jealous tonight. I was so little Bud.
And as far as a Discord server, I see some people talking about Discord server. Maybe I'll open up a Discord server. I have to learn a little bit more about Discord, but I'll look at that as well. Let's see. Alexander, super chat from Sparky. Will it still be the royal military with Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth II in charge, or will Emperor Macron be in charge?
Well, good question. Can I just explain? We have the Royal Air Force, the Royal Navy, but we have the British Army. The reason it's called the British Army is because it descends from Oliver Cromwell's Roundheads. So it's a strange fact, but it's a British Army and a Royal Air Force and Royal Navy. I think for the time
I didn't know
being,
that.
yeah,
I didn't know
most
that.
people know this. It's one of these curiosities about Britain. But I think
you must be a real hit. You must be a real hit at cocktail parties. Yeah.
We are full of these little archaic twists and things here. But can I just say, I still come back to what I think. I think that there would be huge resistance within the British military to it being integrated with the European military. And the idea of us taking command from Emperor Macron is, I think, would just horrify many of the people in the British military. Some of whom I know, by the way. I know a few. I've known it in my time, quite a few people in the military. I think they'd be horrified at the idea of being subordinated to Monsieur Macron.
Okay, Peter, super chat from Sparky. Where are the orange PJs and shackles walks?
Yeah. I'm saving some popcorn. Let me put it to you that way. Okay. I got a special reserve for that moment. Okay. Yeah. I got an alert on my phone. I'll be there. I'll be watching it. You know, the revolution will be televised.
We're all waiting for that day.
Yeah.
We're all waiting. From Michael Catalysator, Alexander, cynics are wisdom bearers. A crossroad? ?
Well, cynics can be wisdom bearers. We should be careful. One of our great writers, Oscar Wilde, once defined a cynic as someone who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. So we should be careful by the use of that word. Skeptics, we should be definitely skeptics. We should not accept uncritically all that we hear. But I think also, we shouldn't fall into the trap of complete cynicism about absolutely everything. One example, now we haven't talked much about Russia on this program, but some of the theories about Russian foreign policy, especially that I hear about, which
yesterday, yeah.
I mean, infected by cynicism, and one should not really. One should discount those things. Skeptical, yes. Worldly, definitely. Cynical, I think that's too strong.
Okay, from Sparky, a super chat. Wasn't the Mormon family killed in Mexico? ? They were from Arizona, but were they killed in Mexico or Arizona?
I think they were killed on American soil.
I don't. If people know in the chat, let us know, because I'm not sure either.
No.
I think maybe Sonora. I don't know.
No.
Anyway, that's a good observation.
My apologies. I was just retelling what I thought I heard on Tucker this morning.
Yeah, let us know on the live stream if they were in Mexico or in Arizona at the time. From Simon Ennefer, Peter, is the U.S. Republic following the same course as the Roman Republic did? Factionalism followed by civil war, followed by dictatorship and empire.
Well, this is a theme that's been around since the 1970s. I actually remember reading paperbacks about it. I mean, I think that there's certainly something to it, and you have to remember what I think the most important parallel is. The things that were mentioned, of course, are true, but I think the most important parallel is that the Roman Empire collapsed because it lost faith in itself.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to empires. There are occasions where they are defeated militarily. I think World War I is a good example. But if you look at history, historically, empires collapse from within, not because of outside aggression. And the United States has no real military adversary that it should be really worried about. Okay, I mean, the U.S. military, sensibly looks at contingencies, and that's what all major militaries do. What if this happens and we'll do this? Okay, but it's American culture is collapsing in on itself. I mean, like I said, you have the Democrats represent billionaires and cross-dressers. I mean, what does Red America have to do with either? It doesn't. And this is what, there was an interesting article yesterday. I sent it, I think I put it on Facebook, about the how imminent is a civil war in the United States, and in some levels it's already started.
Yes.
Now, when you have the real threshold for an impending civil war, at least in the American context, is a constitutional crisis, and that's creeping up on us right now. I mean, there was disparaging things said about Justice Roberts, and they may be true, all right? But I will go back to him and say, it may get down to the Supreme Court to avoid a constitutional crisis, because that's where we're heading right now. Yes. And it's all based on partisanship. Okay, that is another element of an impending civil war.
Yes.
Okay, and when it becomes so partisan, because then your adversary has no moral value. Okay, and you dismiss that. That is, you can't do that in a democratic republic. You can't do that. You just simply can't do that, or else the whole system itself caves in on itself. And we're moving in that direction. I'm not trying to be excitable about this, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic. But I mean, constitutional crisis. That's when it start happening. Then you need to be worried, because everything else is already put in place. You have red America and you have blue America, and they ain't talking to each other.
Yes.
Okay, it's Mexico, Peter Alexander, near Chihuahua. But where is it from? Jonathan said they were in Mexico, Sonora, but the kids were sent to Arizona. So that's the Arizona part. So the kids were sent there. Thank you guys for letting us know. Alexander, super chat from Sparky. Globalist establishment counts votes in the US and the UK.
Well, they would certainly love to. I mean, at the moment, as I said, in the UK, we do still have a relatively open electoral system. But look what's happened. I mean, we see how the procedures, the time-honored procedures of the House of Commons were shunted aside. We see the Supreme Court of Britain, in itself a relatively modern innovation, by the way, in our constitutional system, taking decisions which once upon a time I would have considered impossible, and which astonished many people within the legal world. So, we can't take anything for granted, obviously not.
Peter from Not Today has a question. Do you speak to your dogs in English or in Russian? Real quick, English,
both.
Russian?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Peter, are you with us, Peter?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Okay.
Okay, got the super
5
chat.
minutes. 5 minutes.
All right,
Okay.
we're almost through the super chats. From Dan Noyes, Peter, I disagree regarding Nixon. The deep state then was out to get him as he ran on the platform of dismantling the war of poverty programs, as he thought it would bankrupt the U.S. and promote more corruption.
No, I disagree with that. I think that's an incorrect interpretation. As a matter of fact, Nixon was really an ingenious politician. When you think of the Environmental Protection Program and a lot of things that dealt with social welfare, what Nixon did was that he didn't destroy it. He manipulated it and changed it and very often gutted it. So these liberal policies, nominally speaking, were put into place, but he made sure things weren't funded and weren't given the resources they needed. So, and we also have to make it very clear is that we know is a historical fact, because Nixon said it in the tapes, he was essentially ordering the CIA and the FBI to cover up for him. Neither did.
Yes.
Neither did.
Yes.
They said, no, we're not getting involved in this. Because you got some Cubans over there and they can do that, and say, we're not getting involved in it. So no, it wasn't. Nixon's fall was out of hubris.
Yes.
Okay, and that he wasn't overthrown by the deep state. No, he wasn't.
No.
Okay, the cover up did not resemble his political adroitness. It was a very sloppy cover up, and it was exposed, and he paid a very high price for it. But I want to make it very clear, I don't like people when they completely diss Nixon's legacy. And that's like a cartoon caricature. It's a very interesting presidency. He was a very interesting politician, kind of a weird guy, but he was a very interesting politician.
Alexander from Indigo Jones, late to the party, but who are the Horowitz indictment list?
Well, who will? We don't know because we haven't yet seen.
We haven't seen
the Horowitz report. It's very, very interesting, by the way, that too has been delayed. Its publication has been apparently repeatedly delayed, and there's some interesting facts about that. Because firstly, we were hearing that it was delayed over the course of the summer, because with Mueller out of the way and with Durham appointed and William Barr in charge, it seems all sorts of people across the law enforcement and intelligence community bureaucracies started to come forward to and started to provide him with more information.
Or people that had already been questioned wanted to amend their testimony.
Exactly.
Okay. Which is a good sign,
Which
guys.
is a very, very good sign. Now, the other thing, and this is, I'm sure, another major factor in keeping it back, is that the fact that the Durham investigation has now been converted into a criminal investigation almost certainly further explains why Horowitz has been held back a bit, because clearly there is a very big overlap between the two, and it could very well be that it is now being absorbed, if you like, into the Durham investigation. So it's probably going to be rewritten again in some respects to take that fact into account. So I think we need to wait for Horowitz. I suspect we will see him, or see his report before year's end. I expect it's going to be a very different report from the kind of report he might have published if it had come out in the summer. And I expect that it will be paving the way for criminal indictments.
Okay, Peter from Sparky, Super Chat.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
No way Hillary won the popular vote, pure fraud.
No, I think she won the popular vote. Yeah. I think.
Take out California.
So I think California should leave the union and become its own country. I've lived there for over 10 years. I have no love lost for the place. Good riddance. Goodbye.
All right. From Paul, my transcription company, Easy Virtual Assistant, 10 years experience, 100% accuracy. First jobs equal 10% discount. Absolutely great company. Paul, you can check out the ebooks that we have. We're going to have some new ebooks coming out. So definitely check out Paul, 10% discount, first job. For 10% discount on the first job. Thank you, Paul, very much. Easy Virtual Assistant. From Sparky, the family part of the Mexican Romney Mormon enclave? Question mark. I don't know if they were part of a Romney enclave. I don't know. They were part of some sort of enclave that I have heard, but I'm not sure what was going on there. But thank you, Sparky, for your super chat. Peter from Simon, Ennifer, why are political crises happening everywhere in the West at the same time? US, France, the UK, Germany, etc.
Because the neoliberal system is collapsing all over the world. Okay, and what it is that this neoliberal agenda has built in as part of its rhetorical expression is everything just gets better, but it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't. And it's bad governance, because it's like all of these countries that are having crisis, they have their deep state too, and a lot of deep states are connected to other deep states. All right, I mean we had Turkey mentioned here. Yes. I may be wrong here, but I think I'm close to the truth here. When you look at the Turkish military, they're all trained by Americans. Okay, yes. Okay, and Erdogan is keeping a close eye on that. Okay, or actually purging people. Okay. Because they're all, see, one of the things, we've mentioned this many times on our podcast, is that the neoliberal center, if we can call it that, is the US and Europe, okay? And what they do is they go through the process of elite capture everywhere. Elite capture in Moldova, elite capture in Serbia, elite capture in Ukraine. It has nothing to do with democracy. No. What they want to do is capture these elites, okay, and bring them into the imperium, okay? But it doesn't work. It's giving negative returns, all left and right and center. And this is a crisis of that ideology. Yes. And something was going to come. I mean, we were discussing yesterday on WhatsApp that ridiculous article in an American conservative. I was so disappointed with it. It was just garbage. I mean, and the thing is that the defenders of the neoliberal order cannot imagine anything that will replace it, because they still hold on to Francis Fukuyama's nonsense about the end of history in the modern man. It's all rubbish. I mean, I'm sure there was a Fukuyama in ancient Rome. Okay, we've already made it here. Okay, there are always these Fukuyama characters everywhere. Okay, did I get lost?
We've got your voice. We got your voice.
Okay.
We just have your picture with Putin that we're seeing right now.
Okay. All right. Hang on here. Let's see.
But let me throw this super chat at you guys. There is from Jeanette. This is actually an interesting point. I like the super chat. There is zero evidence that the Mormon family was murdered. Media reports is not evidence. Why are we talking about this as fact? This story is unfolding. This story is unfolding. It's a big story, I think.
I'm just reacting to media reports.
Yeah,
okay?
and this is the first media reports that we have, but that's an interesting comment, Jeanette. And thank you very much for that super chat. Alexander from Sparky. Super chat, $5 for stability. J. Edgar Hoover. Okay, you're back, Peter. J. Edgar Hoover protected all presidents. He died and was no longer around to protect President Nixon.
Well, he protected and blackmailed all of them. Okay? there's a double-edged sword on that one. Okay. No, I mean, J. Edgar Hoover, when he used to go to get funding for the FBI, he always wanted more money. He was a real empire builder. Yeah. And apparently, he would go in front of a congressional committee. It would be the House, because they have the money. And he used to sit with these files, thick files. And so when he would go to, well, Senator Smith, you have the floor, and he would ask J. Edgar Hoover questions. And J. Edgar Hoover would very purposely look, I have the file. Congressman Smith, yes, sir. What would you like to know? Okay, and he would have a file in front of him. It was so intimidating because what's in the file? Okay, Hoover was a really maniacal guy, but he threatened, and also protected presidents. And it was really good when he passed on, because when he died, there were I don't know if our foreign viewers will understand this, but I guess you guys would call it a moving lorry, and we call it a moving truck. Where you move furniture and stuff like that. Yeah. Two vast ones left the FBI headquarters after J. Edgar Hoover died, and they lost it. We don't know where it is. Its files are gone. Oops. I love that story. I love that story. Oops.
Alexander, any comment on Hoover?
Well, I was thinking that if a protector like Hoover is actually more dangerous. I mean, I suspect a lot of those presidents probably would have been very happy free.
It's like having
protection.
It's kind of like having an arsonist protect your house. Okay. Yes. All right, you guys.
We're at the last two super chats. Here we are, the last two from Indigo Jones. Great answer on the indictments. Thanks. It's a great answer on I believe that was the Horowitz indictments. Great answer there. And from Emil Resman, a super chat with a GIF, an animated GIF with a cat giving the #1 signal. So thank you, Emil, for that super chat as well. All right, guys, that is it for a great live stream. Peter, what are you checking out this week? You and that's a buddy, or I was confused, that's buddy, right?
That's buddy. That's
okay.
Buddy. Okay.
What are you and Buddy checking out this week?
Well, what I'm doing a program tomorrow, because it's my own program and I get to decide the topics. I'm doing 30 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Promises kept, promises broken.
And that will air on Friday, right?
And it will air on Friday. We have John Laughlin on, which is one of my favorite guests.
Yeah.
Awesome. Alexander, what are you checking out this week?
Well, we keep an eye on the election. I have to say, having the election in Britain is a relief, because having to explain and follow all these utterly awful intrigues in the House of Commons week after week was so demoralizing with Brexit. So, having a proper election campaign, it's come as an absolute...
would have thought an election campaign would be for a respite, okay? Who would have thought?
Yeah, but it seems to me that the big news at the moment is in the United States. I mean, we're seeing a major political conflict play out there. That's what this impeachment is all about. It's not really an impeachment. It is a political battle that is being fought, and it's about also the direction of America. So we will see what happens over the next couple of days.
That was if you were with us for the entire thing, you heard the best pearls of wisdom just a second ago from Alexander Makiris. Spot on.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Those pearls of wisdom. Alexander Alexander.
You made me blush, Peter. You made me blush.
All right. Alexander Mercuris, the Oracle of London. Thank you very much. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's Crosstalk in Moscow. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions, for your super chats. Thank you for hitting that like button, especially for hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing the channel with everybody you know. Check us out on Telegram, the Duran.com. Find us there. Alexander, Peter, take care, everybody, wherever you are. Morning, afternoon, evening. Have a great Wednesday and have a great rest of the week. Take care, everybody.